You wedding finger.
Behind it, the doctor.
Testing. You all ready? Did you like that? Ladies, introduce you to Maid Moran, Health Freedom Ireland.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm probably a bit emotional because I don't know whether everybody else feels like this, but this is incredible. Thank you all so much. You know, for coming out today, I know people have travelled from all four corners of Ireland to be with us because they feel they want the truth, they want the freedom. I'm just going to say a few words, and I'm going to use my notes just to keep me on script and not to delay you too long because we've some talented speakers following after me. So, I wish to thank Glenn yet again for allowing us to use this platform and giving us a message and educate and inform the citizens of Ireland. I don't want to take up a lot of your time as we have some fantastic speakers. Dr. Marcus de Brun, Barrister and Senior Counsel, and also then Professor Dolores Cal on the other side. Glenn introducing three fabulous speakers on their side, but I leave that job to him. So before they start the speeches, I would like to actually just bring up something that I think has been very forgotten about in this pandemic, and just to bring everybody down a bit and to develop some reverence, we're going today to honour those who died alone, without any family around them during this horrific, terrible time. Those who in their final hours were without the love and support of their close family members and loved ones. Not every one of these unfortunate souls died from COVID-19. No, they didn't. But they were still denied the right to have those they loved around them when they drew their last breath. Can you imagine how sad that was? Heartbroken families. Having looked at this from January to May 2020, Health Freedom Ireland gained these from the General Registrar's Office under Freedom of Information. In actual fact, the deaths are way down in the first 5 months of this year. If you take 2018 as an example, we had 14,380 overall deaths from all causes. That's in the same period between January and May. But if you look at the deaths in 2020 for that same period, these are all-cause deaths, which were 13,449. And of that, only 1,390 were from COVID. So just let that sink in, people. 1,390 from COVID. For this, we closed down our economy. We have decimated lives and livelihoods. We have caused increased suicide rates and mental health and depression issues. We do not in any way detract from the terrible sadness and loss that death brings to families. But do these numbers constitute a pandemic? And do these numbers constitute shutting down society? Do these numbers constitute removing every pleasure of Irish people? Gathering in your local pub for a pint? Going to a match? Even going to church? Weddings? Christenings? No, these are really ridiculous measures, and I think people are beginning to wake up and realise it has to stop. I want to draw your attention to the news that's blasted out daily about increased infection rates that is driving the Irish people into absolute terror and fear. But they never actually classify if these people are in hospital or if they're even sick. We're never told the actual symptoms. We don't know how seriously ill or if they're sick at all. So we need to draw the public's attention to these facts, as so much scaremongering is being generated by the mainstream media. And it has created a massive amount of fear and confusion around this virus. These are the questions we need to be asking our government and to be seeking clarity from NEFET and our health authorities.
And RG is the virus again.
I would finally add as my last point that we are all born with amazing and buoyant immune systems. Which, if treated correctly, can withstand the onslaught of all sorts of diseases and viruses. Yet we hear so little from our health authorities or the mainstream media about boosting our immune system. And this is such a shame, because it could surely improve the lives of so many in fear and anxiety about dying from this virus. Finally, I want today to take some time to read a poem that has been specially written for Health Freedom Ireland by a wonderful girl called Jenny McGinley. Jenny, I'm going to share your poem now. The wind is howling within, the storm outside in full swing. The night is dark and threatening, winds howling and raging. What will all of this madness bring? We don't know what's happening from one day to the next. More and more are being submissive. More and more are vexed. It's like a curse that's been hurled upon us, with ridiculous restrictions causing more and more fuss. A room packed with people eating is perfectly okay, but not for dancing, singing, playing music, watching a play. A piece of cloth protects and keeps the virus at bay. If you're a non-believer, just go to Mass at last and pray. You can't watch your child outside play a match, but on a pub screen with a burger and a pint there's no catch. But you're fine in your home if you've less than 6, but don't dare throw your grandparents into the mix. Children are not infected, but their hands and mouths are, so muzzle them and cover them in toxic sanitizer. Protect the elderly by locking them up. Neglect them, but tell them don't give up. Doom and gloom as more lockdowns loom. Holidays, weddings, funerals, social life boom. Go make the world a better place by keeping your distance and covering your face. If in doubt, knock it out. We're not all in the same boat. Most now need to get out. Enough is enough. We are stronger than this. 99% stronger, in fact, than this killer virus. Let's welcome each other with open arms. Let's lose the red flags and false alarms. Show the white flag instead and unite together. Health, HFI, Health Freedom Ireland, Volunteers Up. We're actually going to have a remembrance of light. We're going to light some candles, and we're actually going to have a minute's silence amongst the crowd so that we can hear a pin drop in memory of all those who died alone. Thank you.
First of all, this government is not being honest with the Irish people since the pandemic. They've lied every day. They've fooled the people in Ireland into believing that this is a killer virus. It's not a killer virus, it's a flu. I also see that the guards are getting more powers to break into your homes and drag you out if you don't comply with social distancing. And you could get 6 months in prison. I'm going to read you a quote that I seen in a newspaper here, and I know we don't believe everything that's in newspapers. What I do is, I look at all the news, I take out the truth, and I get rid of all the crap, all the lies. This is a quote here. Gardaí may also, working with the request of the health or other officials, take a person to a particular place or break and enter into a particular property. We have rights. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. This whole idea of wearing face masks is idiotic. If people look at the box that they come in, it clearly states, the warning says, these masks do not protect you against COVID-19 or any other coronavirus. You see people wearing them and then taking them off to eat their food. I was actually in a restaurant there the other day. A woman came in, she had the mask on in the restaurant, took it down, took a bite of her food, put the mask back on. Crazy. Same thing drinking coffee. Mask down, cup of tea or coffee, and back up with the mask. Totally stupid. As I say, they don't honestly believe the virus is going to say, hold on, you have your mask off, we're going to attack you now. It's crazy stuff. And as I say, on the person that's eating, leave them alone, they're alright, they're eating food. How ridiculous does it seem? As far as face shields, these face shields that you see now, the virus just comes to the face shield, says, hold on, I can't go around that face shield, I better go to the next person that hasn't got a mask on. Crazy stuff. I have asked people, why are you wearing the face shield? And the answer is, to protect against the virus. Really? I could have it, and this is what they do say to me, I could have it and I could pass it on. Yeah, right. And about 50 people eating food in the restaurant or the pub. But all these people that are eating food with no masks, they're fine. But this one person working in the pub is protecting you by wearing a face shield. Totally ridiculous. Clever, clever, clever. Even this idea of pubs. If you go into a pub and have a €9 meal, not €8.99 or €9 and 1 cent, it has to be €9. With your pints, you're safe. And once you leave the pub 105 minutes, where they got this 105 minutes, I don't know. Once you leave the pub 105 minutes after you get there, you're safe. If you have an underlying issue, you don't have to wear a mask. Has anyone heard that? This new regulation that they brought out, if you have COPD or you have asthma, you don't have to wear a mask. You're fine. This virus is supposed to be protecting the people with underlying issues and not allowing them to go around without a mask. It's totally fucking crazy. If you look at this with a bit of logic, it's just ridiculous. There's no need for these face masks at all. As everybody else is saying here today, 700-800 people died. Not really. There's only about 1,000 people, and all them people had underlying issues. There are a few things we need to do. We need to empower the people. We need to make people realise that all is not lost yet. There are 3 things that we need to do now. Number 1, we need to connect. We need to connect with the people, with family, with friends. It will be hard, and a lot of people are still frightened. A lot of people are still listening to the mainstream media and RTE. Turn off your fucking tellies and stop buying newspapers. That's the only way. If this virus wasn't publicised in the mainstream media and on the TV and radio, nobody here would know there was a killer virus out there. Not one of us. As I say, stop listening to RTE. And these people that are asleep will come around. Hopefully, it won't be too late for them or the rest of us. Number 2, we need to educate people by giving them the facts, such as what we're doing here today. Such as give them links and give them YouTube channels and even put them onto the yellow vests here and hear what's going on today and last month, and in a couple of weeks' time we'll be here again. Listen to what's been told to them by doctors and specialists that have come out risking everything to save humanity and to save them and to save all of us. Number 3, act. We need to act like what we are doing here today. We need to get solicitors and barristers, etc. together and get a case against this government. We need to get this government out of power before they kill us all. As I said, we need solicitors and barristers, so if there's any of you in the crowd there, come up and speak to us afterwards. We'll be glad to get you on board. As I say, we need to stop this government. We need to stop this tyranny against the Irish people. As I said before, if the Irish people can stand up and fight, maybe the rest of the world will fight as well. We are only a small nation in an ocean, and if we fight against this tyranny, the rest of the world will follow us. We need to stand united. We need to stand shoulder to shoulder. We are not all in this together, but we should be. We are stronger as one. Together we are strong. Alone we fall. Let us rise up and beat this together as one nation. Behind our backs, our governments are bringing in new laws to remove our children without the permission of the parents. They can take them using whatever force necessary and put them into hospitals or other holding facilities where they decide this is not right. They can do whatever they want to your children. They can take blood. They can give them whatever injections they want. And all without the need of your consent, your permission. Is that what we want for our children? Is that what we want for our children? We have been through enough in the last 6 months. And before it gets any worse, we need to stop this, and we need to stop this now. It is all in black and white, written down for all of us to see, if you look for it. Everything I have said is under, I've seen this in a magazine or in a paper. South Australia, you probably all heard of Victoria and how draconian measures they have locked down there. COVID-19 Emergency Response Act 2020, 25A, removal of children. All this that's going on in Victoria and other countries around the world will come here if we allow it. people here today, we're not going to allow it. It seems everything that has gone on around the world has filtered down to us here in Ireland. Flatten the curve, protect the old people, protect the hospitals. Everything that had happened all over the world has happened here. So why wouldn't that emergency response that's going on in Australia happen in this country too? You might not believe it could happen here, but it will, if we let it. The time to act is now. I've only one more thing now. As we see again, the banks, KBC and other banks, are coming in sending paramilitary style gangsters to repossess houses from the people, struggling with the rents of their mortgages. This is not right. The Irish government has lied to us again and said there will be no repossessions while the pandemic is raging. So is the pandemic over? Is that why they're taking homes off people now? The pandemic is over so they can go and repossess people's homes? I don't think so. Irish people are so well informed about the wearing of face masks. I've seen a live stream there one day, and a woman actually said, "Do you not have to wear a badge saying you're exempt?" Like a yellow star, maybe. Does that sound familiar? The Germans. So I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'd just like to say thanks to the Yellow Vests, Glenn, Mark, Lorraine, and the rest of the gang here. And for each and every one of you people, I can't all shake your hands, but I'd like to thank you all for coming today and to support your own rights and support the Time for Change. And don't forget, look up my channel on YouTube, The DIY Show, and make sure you enjoy the videos and subscribe and leave a comment. So, thanks very much people for coming out. Sorry about the weather.
Alright, thanks very much, Paul. I'm going to introduce you to Michael. Michael's a human rights activist, mental health activist, and an architect. Michael.
Thank you very much, Greg. This big in Ireland as it was for a creditors meeting of AIB. So this is some turn on, and I'd like to thank you all very much for coming. My name is Michael Leahy, I'm the Vice Chairman of the Irish Freedom Party. And as our party name suggests, we have one overriding value, and that is the value of freedom. That's what we're here to support today. This nation's history was born from a centuries-old struggle for freedom. And that is what defines our national characteristics. That is what Ireland is known as. We are known as a people which will stand up to the oppressor and stand for the rights of the individual. And that's what we're doing here today. President Kennedy, when he came here many years ago, he reminded us that when his ancestors came from Ireland, they brought only two possessions. The first was a strong religious faith, and the second was a thirst for liberty. Those values often go hand in hand, and the Irish thirst for liberty is known throughout the world. We have been known as a people who have always stood four square behind the oppressed and who have involved ourselves in the freedom struggles of other nations, most notably in the American Revolution. But there is no doubt that today, Irish liberty and Irish freedom is under threat as never before since our independence. Our membership of the European Union has meant we no longer have the right to pass or to scrutinise our own legislation. Our rights of legislation have been abolished. Our government, as we speak, is engaging in a proposal to delimit our rights of freedom of speech and our rights of freedom of thought. And they are doing that at the behest of the black-shirted fascists we see over on that bridge, who absurdly call themselves anti-people. Their hate speech laws are are being introduced at the behest of a viciously racist organisation who have reversed the dictum of Dr. Martin Luther King and now propose to judge people not by the content of their character, but by the colour of their skin. And our organisation is the organisation known as Black Lives Matter, which, if you don't know that, it is a Marxist organisation which seeks to destroy liberty. Mussolini would be proud of them with their black shirts and their ridiculous slogans and their pathetic numbers. However, the most insidious attack against our freedom today comes from the spurious pretext of fighting the COVID-19 epidemic. This attacks our rights of freedom of movement, our rights of freedom of association, our rights to earn a living, and with the introduction of mandatory mask wearing, our rights of bodily integrity. The education of our children is being undermined. A massive new public debt has been incurred, which will be the cause of recession for years to come. And this is being done by a government which is not able to justify its actions. There is no evidence that crashing the economy and attacking our liberties will save a single life. But there is every evidence that it is the egregious and unnecessary actions taken in the lockdown and ongoing in our health system that will be the real killer, not the pandemic. It might be argued that the lockdown was justified for a brief period of time when we didn't fully understand the virus, but we now know that the level of mortality was very low, and those deaths that have been ascribed, if they have been correctly ascribed, which is incorrect, are more likely due to the incompetence of government, which did not handle the matter of the elderly and the vulnerable as it should have done. That's the cause of the deaths, not the virus. The virus is in the yard in In the various programs of restriction imposed by our government, no account has been taken of the mental health of our populations, particularly of our elderly. No account has been taken of spiralling suicide rates. No account has been taken of the long-term impact of denying early detection and treatment for cancer sufferers. And that is going to create a tidal wave on our health service in the year to come. No account has been taken of the ruinous impact on small businesses, pubs, restaurants, tourist facilities, small operators who are forced to see their life's work cast aside and are forced to close their doors. No account has been taken of the suffering of people who have been forced to watch and not being able to participate and accompany their loved ones on their final journey. What a dreadful, dreadful suffering that has caused. We can only wonder at the long-term impact of the destruction of our education system on the socialisation of our children and the way in which the most vulnerable and the most needy will be left behind yet again. No account has been taken of the ongoing psychological damage done to our people or to the morale of this nation by the creation of a climate of fear, hostility and suspicion among our people. It is this tactic precisely that of creating fear and suspicion, which is always used by those who seek to impose tyranny on a society. For the past 6 months, our government has abandoned their decision-making powers and handed over the process of government to a group of public health officials. These are people who do not have the wide focus necessary for the administration of a modern state. They have not taken into account the ramifications of their decisions. In failing to provide the oversight necessary of government, our government has essentially abandoned our democracy. They have declared war on democracy on the pretext of a public health emergency. We must also comment that those very institutions which are meant to protect us in time of emergency have left us behind. They have been found to be wanting. Where has been the opposition? Why has not one party in the Dáil seek to scrutinise the legislation and seek to hold the government to account? Where has been our supine media? Well, we know what they're like. They have been as cheerleaders for this government. They have never critically investigated what the government is doing. Why don't they make space for alternative voices, such as Professor Dolores Castle and Dr. Marcus Padilla? our churches acquiesced in the destruction of religious liberty and acted as supplements to an overweening government.
Bishops are all down to the mark.
Where have been our courts? While they still have some hope for them, they have not been to the fore in protecting the public rights. Our government is like a con artist, and when he's been rumbled, he refuses to admit his mistake. Their attitude to us is, how far can you send a fool? You send them further. Well, I have news for them. We're tired of being fooled, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. This government, since its early panic decision, has been digging a hole deeper and deeper for itself, and they're not able to find their way out. We must tell them it's time to stop digging and get out of this hole and stop making matters worse, because that's all you're doing. When we have a government which is more interested in protecting its reputation than in protecting the public welfare of the people, you can only expect matters to get worse. Can anyone doubt that when the flu season starts in September or October, that the government will again push for a full economic directory lockdown? They will do anything rather than admit that they made a mistake. As a people, we need to figure out the real purpose of this cynical attack against our liberty, because I can assure you, it is not for reasons of public health. There are sinister forces within our media and business, and in certain of our political parties, which seek the wreckage of our economy and the wreckage of our society as an opportunity to impose new forms of government and new forms of societal control. They see this crisis as a godsend. How often recently have you heard the phrase, the new normal, or the suggestion that we cannot go back to the way things were? If you have any doubt but that the present crisis will be used as an excuse to introduce a tax against our system of government and our freedoms, you need only look at how fear-mongering has been used in the other great fraudulent crisis of recent times, namely the climate crisis, where we were told that unless we completely destroy our economy and our way of life, we will face Armageddon. That so-called crisis is an even bigger lie than the present one. I spoke earlier of how the formation of this nation was the culmination of a centuries-long struggle for freedom. That struggle culminated in the formation of the Irish Constitution, and in my opinion that is the one thing that may yet save us. Our Constitution, like the United States Constitution, has as its primary focus the prevention of government overreach and the protection above all else of the rights and liberties of the Irish people. The main purpose of our Constitution is to stop government from acting illegally. I believe that what they are doing at present is illegal. Under our Constitution, if the government wishes to limit our rights, it must show that it has a justifiable reason for doing so. They have certainly not done this as yet. I believe, therefore, it's appropriate for us to consider another constitutional challenge to the government's actions. While the last one fell at the first hurdle, I think there's grounds in some of the comments made by the judge that there was a case to answer, and I believe it is appropriate that we should take another such action. I know that there are people considering this at the moment, and we must give them our full support, including our financial support as necessary. In the meantime, we can continue with meetings such as this. This is really a fantastic turnout. Don't be under any illusion. The media may ignore this meeting, but the backbenchers will not ignore this meeting. The public representatives will not ignore this meeting. And I know that there are many backbench TVs who are just as sceptical of government action as we are, and we have to work on them. Get them out! 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 We must also recognize that this is a deeply divided government with a weakened cabinet. and an indecisive and clueless Taoiseach. Make no mistake about it, they're going to be coming to us soon looking for their votes again. And when they do, we must make our full anger on this matter felt. Today, the 22nd of August, is the anniversary of the death of one of Ireland's greatest patriots, Michael Collins. In 2 years' time, we will celebrate the 100th anniversary of the foundation of our state. There are many in our government, and there are many in the European Union, who would wish that that anniversary will never arrive, but it will arrive. We cannot let it be said that we were the ones who allowed Irish freedom to falter. If we have any Irish pride, and I know the people here do, we will protect intact that which we have received from the sacrifices of our forebears. Namely, a functioning democracy indicated for the welfare of the Irish people, where civil and religious liberties, the rights of free assembly, and the rights of free speech, and the right to have pride in our nation and our history are protected as if they were the most sacred values. I will give another brief quotation from President Kennedy's visit to this country, when he said that those who seek to oppress the Irish people and to destroy our liberty would do well to look to the lessons of Irish history. We are not a people which will take lightly to tyranny. No. I detect as I look around me the rumblings of a sleeping giant. That sleeping giant wakes and gives a mighty roar for freedom! His name is Ken Duffy, again another human rights advocate. So pay attention. Hello everybody. I'm new to this, so be gentle with me, okay? I haven't done this before. I just wanted to say before I get started what an honour it is to be here today, and especially as you've been told on the anniversary of Michael Collins' death. It's wonderful again that so many people have come out here today, and it's ultimately a Jew who's going to make the difference and make the changes in this country. I wanted to thank Glenn. People power is right. I wanted to thank Glenn and Mark and Lorraine and all the Yellow Vests for organising today. And I've been asked here to say a few words today about homelessness in Ireland. So, I suppose I better start. I'll just introduce myself first. As you may know, my name is Ken. I've been through homelessness in Ireland. I was 3.5 years homeless. I survived homelessness. I came out the other side. I won't say I came out unscarred, because nobody comes out of homelessness unscarred. It leaves its marks, and those marks stay with you for a very, very, very long time. Becoming homeless fills you with a feeling of failure, of hopelessness, and of shame. There's an imaginary bright blue neon sign that appears above your head when you're homeless, and you believe everybody else can see this. That sign says homeless and useless, and that's what you feel you are, and you think everybody else thinks that too.
No.
Even when it's not your fault, you blame yourself. And it can happen to absolutely anybody and at any time. I was 55 years of age when it happened to me. I know you all think I'm not 55.
came from nowhere. It literally happened overnight. I'd always worked, I'd paid taxes, I'd contributed to society, as they say, but yet at 55 years of age, here I was, homeless and useless. I had been married, had a mortgage, 3 kids, got separated, divorced, left my home to my ex and my children. I had to do that. I began renting a house up in Lucan, and I settled in Lucan, and shortly after moving into that house I started my own business up in Lucan, locally. Everything was grand. I met a new girl, had new children, 3 more children, and they all moved in with me and everything was rosy, happy days. 6 years into that relationship and into my new beginning, I had to close shop. The premises I had been renting for doing my business was sold for redevelopment. I had a long legal battle, but I lost. So off I went to the Department of Social Protection, the Social Welfare, the Dublin. I signed on. I had my savings, so I continued to rent the house in Lucan, live in Lucan and support my children and my partner. Needless to say, with rents being as high as they are, the jug soon emptied. I ran out of money. So I went back to the social welfare and asked them could I have rent allowance, some kind of a rent supplement to help me pay the rent. The answer I got was no. Because I had been self-employed, I wasn't entitled to any kind of rent to help, rent supplement, any of those things. But there's a but. There's a but here. My partner was entitled to it. My children were entitled to it as long as I left the house. I had to move out again. I had no choice, I had to do it. So here I am, 55 years of age, having worked for 37 years. 6 of those years I ran my own business, and here I am back homeless again. What does being homeless actually mean to me or to anybody, and how does it affect them? At 10 p.m. every night I had to present at a homeless shelter. At 8:45 a.m. every morning I had to sign out. Hail, rain, snow, it didn't matter. You got in at 10 at night, you left at 8:45 in the morning. Imagine what walking around for 14 hours in town can do to anybody's physical health and mental health. It's not good. There's something you'll notice on every person that's homeless in their eyes. There's that blank look of hopelessness, failure, shame, and of not belonging. And there's a terrible, terrible fear involved in being homeless. I was okay. I was okay. I didn't have to walk the streets and sit in parks and sit in libraries. I had my family to go up to every day in Luke and have a shower, have food, watch TV. But I just didn't have that luxury. They left at 8:45. They came back at 10 o'clock at night time. They used the food kitchens, etc. But imagine what that does to anybody with a drink problem or a drugs problem for 14 hours every single day. And again, I'd say everybody feels that neon sign is over your head all day. Everybody's looking at you. Lots of people are not drug dependent or drink dependent. 26% of people in homelessness are dependent on substance. That leaves 74% that are not. 74% of homelessness is due to marriage breakups, high and unaffordable rents, and redundancies. Many of these people once held good jobs, they trades, they were plumbers, bricklayers, chefs, mechanics, gardeners, industrial cleaners, electricians, and believe it or not, there were 2 solicitors in the hostel that I was in. I promise. So what if we could get, no, they were living there. So what if we could get all of these people back to work again? I had a plan. Instead of letting them walk for 14 hours a day, I approached several homeless agencies and put my idea. of a homeless men's and women's working club. They jumped on the idea and asked why it had never been thought of before, why had nobody helped these people before. On week one, the very first week that this started, 60 homeless people signed up. People who wanted to change their own lives and improve their futures. So we approached the Department of Social Protection with this idea. At that time, they had a scheme called the Back to Work Enterprise Allowance Scheme. Under this scheme, we got a grant for any tools or equipment you needed. You got 100% of your social welfare payment for 1 year, as well as keeping your earnings for the work that you've done. In year 2, it was reduced to 75% of the social welfare plus your earnings. So that was fine. And everybody embraced that idea and looked forward to starting work again. On year 3, you signed off the social welfare because you could stand on your own 2 feet by then. But that was the scheme, and it was a great scheme. So 60 plus people at this stage look forward to a new beginning, but not for long. The social welfare never even let it get started. One door after another just got slammed shut. So 60 plus dreams were shattered. There wasn't much social protection there. As a result of me fighting for this, I became in social care, became involved in social care, and now I work full time in social care working for these people. I'm back living in the family home and paying the rent. I'm sorry to say this, but now I don't have to rely on the department of we don't give a fuck. And the ruling that they had at the time that I had to leave my home because I was self-employed, that's now been abolished. And I'd like to think I had a part to play in that because I fought for that. Before I sit up there and let other people come up and speak to you, I just wanted to give you a few facts and figures on homelessness in Ireland that actually really got worse since we were forced to join the EU. Forced. I'd only do it in 5-year gaps, okay, rather than do year on year. In the year 2000, there were 2,015 homeless people in Ireland, 185 rough sleepers. 5 years on, that number rose to 2,366, 192 rough sleepers. 2010, that figure grew again to 3,808, 187 rough sleepers. 2015, 8,867 were using homeless services. 180 people were living on the streets. 2020, today, that figure is now 10,338. 340 people are on our streets in Ireland. The news won't tell you that, the papers won't tell you that. 3,848 of these are children. These figures do not include the hidden homeless. That's people that are sleeping on friends' couches, people that are squatting, people in refuges, direct provision. The numbers just keep rising and rising, and all under Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and EU direction. Over the last 4 years, 259 people have died in homelessness. Many were suicides. That suicides are on the rise. There are many, many more attempted suicides, many more. And self-harm in hospitals and in shelters is huge. How long are people expected to be in homeless shelters? I have a little table here. One is what the government tells us and one is the truth. So for single men, the government will tell you 69 days. The truth is anywhere between 4 and 9 years. For single women, you will be told it's 51 days. The truth again is 4 to 9 years. For families, including children, you'll be told it's 70 days, no more. The truth again is 4 to 9 years. People in direct provision, 2 years tops. 2 years tops. And they will be looked after, 2 years tops. And now, as you're being told, the pandemic is rampant in direct provision. They're all going to be housed, and their list is going to get slower and slower and longer and longer. I just want to go through the negative effects in homelessness, how it affects people in homelessness. The negative effects would be skin diseases and infections. There's many, many of those. Nutritional deficiencies, not eating healthy foods. Sleep deprivation. There's up to 4 people in any one room in any hostel. One lad gets up to use the toilet, he wakes 3 others up. Gets up to have a smoke, people don't sleep in hostels. Mental health issues. Physical assault, sexual assault. There's lots and lots of girls in hostels, and it happens. Drug dependency, HIV, AIDS, and death. The loss of ability to care for yourself, the loss of the will to even care for yourself. You develop behavioural problems, and there's an increased risk of getting involved in criminal behaviour and ending up in prison.
That's the thought there.
25 families a month in Ireland are presenting at the moment to homeless services. Not a very good future. Can homelessness be fixed? Absolutely, yes, it can. It can be fixed. Billions have been wasted on the COVID-19 scam. Sorry, scheme, not scam. It's not scam. It's not. Yeah, scam. The money was always there. They've proven that. The money was always there. They could have solved this a long time ago. All it takes is for our government to stop ignoring homelessness. It is a crisis. It's an Irish humanitarian crisis. People are starving and dying on our streets. The government boasted recently of having a €2 billion rainy day fund. That would go a long, long way to solving homelessness in Ireland. How hard does it have to rain before they help their own people? Thank you, everybody.
Well, I know you're all tired. Do you want to go home? You sure? Right. You all fancy a walk? You sure? You want to go shopping? Right. I'm going to introduce you, actually I'm not, because you all know Ben Gilroy. So I want you to give him a round of applause. Ben Gilroy.
Good evening, folks. First of all, it's great to see how many have turned out today. And I've just been watching the figures on social media. Trust me when I tell you, the whole world is watching here today, so say hello, say hello. Folks, I'm just a simple family man, and my concerns are very real and genuine, and they're for you and your families too. My concerns are for we the people. Today I'm calling for unity and people power to form powerful, authoritative, educated and meaningful peaceful action. I'm speaking out here today for and on behalf of our children, their future and our future. We must not acquiesce with our own enslavement. We must no longer be bound and gagged. And gagged by politicians and their social media joint friends. Our mainstream media has played its part too. Yes. And they must also be brought back to their rightful place of serving the people impartially. All too often, we get a one-sided, myopic viewpoint focused through a false outrage lens by the well-to-do commentary classes in this country.
Dublin 4X.
Across the whole Western world, people are fearful of being force vaccinated, and they too are listening today, let me tell you. This forced vaccination is not only repugnant to the written word of our Constitution, it is also against the very spirit of it. Gardaí forcing their way into your constitutionally protected dwelling where no law has been broken must be prevented at all costs. We must let the media and politicians and Gardaí know that we, the people, know that civil infractions of statutes and acts do not permit them to act in this matter, and we will hold them accountable. Too many of us are living in fear, generated and hyped up by complicit media and political spin doctors. People are actually terrified, and they ask me what they can do. To them I say this: we are doing it now. This is how we do it. We assemble peacefully, and we say no, and we continue to say no. We will deny them by our actions and our deeds. We will listen to all advice, medical, political and lawful, but we will decide for ourselves. The very recent Gulf Gate dinner tells us so much. They treat us like fools. Judges, senators and TDs flout the very rules that they say applies to us. I know from personal experience that those very same judges will unlawfully throw you in prison for any infraction of these so-called rules. Do you want the same judges sitting hearing your case when all your rights are being abused? That's why, and remember, with the world watching, that's why I'm calling for a complete reset. Not a revolution, but an evolution. A complete reset of the legal system. a complete disbandment of the Law Society operated by the Crown and under the King's Inn. These organisations were set up to keep us downtrodden, not to protect our rights. They are riddled with secret societies who look after their own. Look at the way the government and these societies colluded to now allow hearsay in courts to aid and abet vulture funds in the disposition industry, robbing the property of hard-working Irish people. Along with a legal recess, cameras must be allowed in every courtroom in this land. And any judge not upholding his oath of office and protecting of the rights of the people will be held accountable and removed from office. I was jailed in Mountjoy for 3 months because I told the judge he was a member of a secret society, which he was. So basically, I was sent to prison for telling the truth. I'm not just calling for a reset in Ireland. There has to be a reset worldwide. I see the UK's debt has just reached over £2 trillion. This can never be paid. The world leaders are parasites, and they're talking about a Great Depression. And that's where they will bring us if the people of the world don't unite. Then will follow food shortages, but not for them, for us. So I'm calling not just on Irish people, but for the great people of the entire globe to come together and stand together for a great reset. A great reset of the banking system and their enslavement of the people through debt. I'm calling for a complete reset of all debt. I'm calling for a complete reset of the legal systems around the world that have destroyed the rights of mankind in favour of criminal, corrupt corporations. Judge Hogan, formerly a Supreme Court judge in Ireland and now serving in the European courts, stated that our constitution is either redundant or it's in play. And what he meant was, if our constitution is redundant, then government, all courts and Gardaís must stand down. But if it's in play in its entirety. It is not a la carte. The government and the legal system cannot pick and choose what articles they want to adhere to and which they will ignore. Finally, for people living in fear, remember these little gems in our Constitution and these principles of law. First, in Article 41.11 of the Irish Constitution, the family is recognised as having invincible rights which are superior to all positive law. Positive law is man-made law, statutes and acts and COVID restriction nonsense. So any forced vaccinations or silly COVID restrictions, the family are superior to all of that positive law. The courts say these rights only apply to families based upon marriage. This is how they will attempt to steal some of your rights away from you, by chicanery. If they actually believe that the family in the Constitution is only based upon marriage, then why are so many unmarried people and their children not getting ejected from the family courts? Surely they only apply to married families. It doesn't make sense.
A beautiful principle in law, and this is a universal principle now that we know who our audience is today, is a law for the peoples of the worldwide, that you cannot delegate a power you do not possess. In other words, in a republic, all authority only comes from we the people. And sometimes we don't realize that we are the we in we the people. From whom all authority arrives. So look around. This is where authority comes from, not from them. I often hear RTE state that the authority stated this and the authority stated that. We are the authorities. That's why we refer to others as civil servants and public servants. They only exist to serve us, not diminish our rights. So here is the key. If you cannot delegate a power you do not possess, then how can they claim to have a power you do not possess? I am one of the people in We the People. I do not have the right to stab any child with a hypodermic needle if I do not possess that right. And we live in a republic where all authority is derived from the people. If the people do not possess that right, then no such right can be delegated to any government agent. So unless we have the resets I speak of, and if some government agent wants to vaccinate you or your child against your wishes, you will have to go before one of their judges in the hope he will protect your rights. I don't hold out much hope for that, considering they already abuse at the door every right you already possess. So let's all unite. Let's call for the resets I spoke of. I'm calling for not just for Irish people, but for the great people of the entire globe to come together and stand together for a great reset. And just a reminder, that's a great reset of the banking system, the government system, their enslavement of people through debt. I'm calling for a complete reset of all debt. I'm calling for a complete reset of the legal systems around the world that have destroyed the rights of mankind in favour of the corrupt criminal corporations. My final message to the people is, we are the many, they are the few. Remember that. And do you know what they fear most? They fear us all coming together. So let us chart our own destiny. Let's stand together and we will fight for our rights. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much. And just before I go, there is a party at my house. But apparently only 6 can come. But I have an idea. We can invite 30 if you bring your school bags. We can invite 40 if we say Mass first. I have a better idea. We can invite 50, but 2 of you have to get married. Or I have a better idea. We will invite 80, but you have to bring your golf clubs. And I have just summed up the intelligence of the Irish government. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that was brilliant. Thank you very much, Ben. Well done. I want to just thank everybody who helped organise today. With 3 more speakers to go, okay? Sorry you're tired and all, I know that. Right, 3 more speakers to go. I just want to tell you one thing, but I probably won't be talking anymore anyway. Last Wednesday, I got a phone call at home on my phone, a hidden number. It was Storshi Garda Station. And the lovely guard on the phone, who was a very nice gentleman, informed me that if today's protest went ahead, that I would be arrested and prosecuted. Now I know a lot of you would really love to see that happening. But no, well, that's not the way it works. In any event, if they want to arrest me, they know where I am. I'm right up here. Let's see them try it. However, that being said, you have to give a shout out to the Garda Síochána today, who have helped us keep the demonstration and the rally peaceful. So they're not all that bad. Anyway, I'm going to pass you over to Maeve. Ladies and ladies, we'll see you at the next stage. Next week. Again, remember, you're all the leaders. Every last one of you. So the next day you come, bring a friend.
Thanks everybody. I know everyone's really tired. It's been a long day, but we have 3 more amazing speakers, and I'd like to introduce the next one. Her name is Una McGurk, and she's senior counsel and a barrister. So please give a big round of applause for Una.
Hello, all you wonderful people. Thank you for being here today and having such courage to show up to give your support. It's really, really appreciated. Now, Una McGurk is my name, and I've been asked to speak to you today about the wearing of masks. I'm sure it's a topic that interests all of you. Now, I'm not going to talk about the recent legislation. For that, I urge you to watch the wonderful videos of my great friend Tracy O'Mahony. See, I'm sure all of you know that already. So she explains it in great detail. I would also urge you to support her GoFundMe campaign. You know, she's raising money in order to get legal research and to pay for lawyers to take action in respect of the breach of our constitutional rights, especially our right to bodily integrity. So no amount is too small, and even €1 will make a big difference. So I just wanted to do that for Tracy. Now, as for me, where did this idea of the mandating of wearing masks come from? 4.5 months into a lockdown where established scientific data confirms that the curve has long since flattened and the virus is no longer circulating. So it seems that an alleged, and I use that word, an alleged spike in numbers of cases is what was used to justify the introduction of these latest pieces of draconian legislation. So how did this come about? Well, the testing in Ireland, as you know, is PCR testing. And according to the HSE website, it's for coronaviruses. But they are reporting these cases as COVID-19 cases. Now, this PCR test was developed as a technique to replicate RNA sequence, not as a diagnostic tool to detect specific viruses. And to this day, it cannot test or detect any specific virus, only general coronaviruses. And as we know, even the common cold is a coronavirus. case count is rising. That means there is no more testing. And it's very simple. The more you test, the more cases you will find. Because the RNA sequence is very, very common and widespread. So this potentially inaccurate and potentially unreliable PCR test proves nothing. Yet it is being used by your government and governments everywhere as the foundation to drive this shaky policy of continuing the restrictions, including the mandatory wearing of face masks and the introduction in respect of same. So now, is there any evidence that these face masks work? You might like to know, and I'm sure you do, that one of the main influencers of the mandatory wearing of face masks in Ireland is one of our very own, Professor Luke O'Neill, the eminent professor of biochemistry at Trinity College, Dublin. A man who, as you all know, has close financial links with various big pharmaceutical companies. At least one of which is involved in the making of components for a COVID-19 vaccine. Professor O'Neill initially claimed that face masks offered no protection. You might have heard him on the Late Late Show saying that.
He was right that time.
He then subsequently changed his mind, telling us that the science told him stuff, but he never actually specified what the stuff was. Now he's latched onto a study in the Lancet journal which claims that masks do offer protection. But this is a report that was commissioned by the World Health Organization. It was partly funded by them. And it was a general observational study only and related to other issues other than the wearing of masks. And this study contains no randomized trials. It has also been criticized by other experts. But this study has emboldened Professor O'Neill to call for the mandatory wearing of face masks in Ireland. And as a consequence, Professor O'Neill is now recommending also that it would be very sensible for secondary school children to wear masks at school. Don't you know, Professor O'Neill, that children and teenagers and young adults have no receptors for this virus? So why should they have to wear masks at school just because you say so? So what is the other evidence we have about the wearing of masks? Well, the other side of this debate is that masks can cause damage to your health. They cause fatigue, they cause headaches, they cause stress, they cause anxiety, they reduce your oxygen levels, they reduce your oxygen intake, they cause hypoxia, which weakens your immune system and may very well put you at increased risk of infection. Low oxygen also promotes inflammation, which, as you know, is the root cause of all disease, and promotes the growth, invasion and spread of cancer. This is what happens when you have low oxygen. But don't take my word for it. Take the word of all those eminent doctors like Dr. Russell Blaylock, a neurosurgeon and an author, Professor Dolores Cahill. Dr. Simon Gold, the leader of the US frontline doctors, Dr. Sherry Tempany, Dr. Judy Mikovich, Dr. Rashid Buttar, Professor Lisa Bristow and Dr. Margaret Sema. The latter two experts on respiratory infections and disease have confirmed that the efficacy of wearing of cloth masks or face coverings in public are not based on sound data. And thousands of doctors, other doctors all over the world will say the same thing. But the Irish people don't have the opportunity to hear the views of these eminent doctors. Why? Because mainstream media won't interview them or otherwise enable this important information to be made available to the Irish public. However, it might interest you to know that a recent entry on the WHO website confirms, and I'm going to quote for you, "At present, there is no direct evidence from studies on COVID-19 and in healthy people in the community on the effectiveness of universal masking of healthy people in the community to prevent infection with respiratory viruses, including COVID-19. So masks should be a choice, not a mandate. If you want to wear a mask, that's fine. If it makes you feel safe, that's absolutely fine. Everybody respects that. But it should not be a mandate. And indeed, Health Freedom Ireland stand for freedom of choice on this issue. Why should healthy people be, by law, mandated to wear a mask when there is not one shred of evidence to substantiate the fact that healthy people and people who are asymptomatic, which means people who have no symptoms, spread any COVID-19 virus? Why is our government ignoring the real science here? Because the rules are being driven by politics, not real science. In 2017, the World Health Organization declared tuberculosis as a pandemic. That's right, a pandemic where almost 1.5 million people died. Now, tuberculosis is really, really infectious. So why were we not wearing masks then? Why was there no lockdown? The real question to be asked here is, what is the agenda this time round? What's happening here is a gradual erosion of our civil liberties. And I will conclude by saying that the reality is that the wearing of masks has little to do with protecting your health or someone else's. It has everything to do with testing how compliant you are. It has everything to do with testing how successful was the relentless campaign of fear perpetrated by mainstream media here and elsewhere. And as we can see, sadly, it has worked. The majority of people now believe that the wearing of a mask is beneficial for them or useful in protecting others, even when the evidence states otherwise. So remember, your greatest enemy is not a virus that has at best the same death rate as the average influenza. Your greatest enemy is fear. Now you can overcome that fear by doing your own research. Do it on independent and uncensored platforms. That's really important. Connect also with Source Creator. Remember, you're always divinely loved. And I'm going to leave you with a quote attributed to one of the great founding fathers of the US, Benjamin Franklin, who said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And finally, just to say, and just to remember, that great and benevolent events are happening in other places which will have an impact here in Ireland, but we still have a long way to go. So in the meantime, stay safe, love and support one another. God bless you all. Namaste.
Okay, everybody, we're nearly there. I'm now going to introduce you. And by the way, I just want to say to Una, thank you so much for such a fantastic and informative speech. Thank you. Absolutely brilliant. Our next speaker, of course, you all know very well, is Professor Dolores Cahill.
My name is Dolores Cahill, and I'm coming to and it is my privilege to be here today. It's my privilege. Thank you. The theme of my speech today is truth and freedom. We chose truth. We chose freedom. So I'm actually going to read it for a change because I want to make sure that I'm here to give you information. And I want to be held to account. If my information is wrong, I will correct it, and I'm asking you to do the research and find out for yourselves. So I want to tell you very briefly 3 things. Who I am, and that there is really good news about COVID-19. Number 2, if this good news is true, what changes should we be making in Ireland and in the whole world?
Sack the government! Sack the government!
And number 3, that Ireland is actually leading a movement in the whole world to set these changes on fire. I'll talk a little bit more at the end, but I just wanted to acknowledge, first of all of you for coming, all of our good friends in the police for keeping us safe today, all of you for ensuring this is a peaceful protest with lots of hope and lots of love. The opposite of fear is love. They want you to be afraid. You have to love yourselves, love each other, and love Ireland. We are the change. Truth and freedom. Truth and freedom. I'd like to pay tribute as well to a few people who have came from straight away to help me. And they include Eamon, they include Tracy O'Mahony, and most of all, Dr. De Bruyne, who's here today. And Una McGurk, and all of the other people. Some of them might want to remain anonymous, but there has been lots of barristers, lots of solicitors, and scientists and doctors. So thank you again. So just briefly on me, my name is Dolores Cahill, molecular biologist and immunologist. I set up a company from 1997 to 2019, and for all of my research career has been about early diagnosis of disease to reduce symptoms and keep people healthy, not to sell drugs, not to make money. And all my life has been about research integrity, and for 15 years I've been a professor, for 10 years I was on the Government Advisory Science Council, and for 15 years I've been advising the EU as an expert. I'm only telling you that because my expertise is not just in science, but actually looking at the impacts of government policy in science, innovation and education on all of society. And as doctors, scientists, and in public health, we all, and the government and politicians, have a duty to look at the harm as well as the benefits of everything that they implement. And what they're doing is not considering the harm from the lockdown versus the deaths associated with COVID-19, and this is wrong. So we need to choose truth, choose freedom, and tell them, no, this is wrong. So, the good news about COVID-19 is that it is a coronavirus, but the death rate, when it was announced, is 4,200 out of 7 billion in the whole wide world. So that means from December 2019 to the 11th of March 2020, 4,200 people died. So every death, of course, is a tragedy. And every unnecessary death is not just a tragedy, but is almost a crime. And why we're here today is to say there has been unnecessary deaths, and we want to make sure that in this flu season, in the winter of 2020 and 2021, there will be no more unnecessary deaths. And this information has to get out, so truth and freedom. So the real figures of death in Ireland is there is one death under 25. So, and that looks to be someone of the age of 17. So there is therefore no justification for the schools to be closed. Michael Levitt, Nobel Prize winner, said that all of the deaths are people with either 1, 2, or 3 underlying conditions, and they would have died in a month anyway. So therefore, people who have died, there are less than 20 people in Ireland who died in the whole 6 months under 55. Less than 110 under 65 and 1,100 out of the whole country. But it will be 10 to 20 times more people that will die because of the lockdown, not because of COVID-19. So we have to end the lockdown. But the really good news is that there are treatments available so that there will be less deaths for other flu seasons in all the years to come. This is good news. This is good news. The treatments are inhaled steroids, ivermectin, and of course, as highlighted by the American frontline doctors, hydroxychloroquine. So hydroxychloroquine is used as a prevention and an early treatment. It costs 10 cents to make, and you can get it for 40 cents. It has a half-life of 3 weeks. So if you want to prevent yourself from having even symptoms of flu in the future, you just need 1 tablet of hydroxychloroquine every month.
We can't get it! We got it! We can't get it!
Good. So the thing is, if there is a bond between scientists, doctors, public health officials, civil servants, the politicians, and you who pay our salaries. And if there is a treatment for a disease that is one of the essential medicines of the world, Dr. Simon Gold of American Frontline Doctors and all those doctors have said it is a magic bullet. In 50 years of adverse event reporting of the FDA in America, it's one of the safest drugs. It can and always has been given to pregnant women, breastfeeding women, children, and the elderly, and the adverse events were overinflated. So we have a treatment. We don't need the lockdown. I've spent 2 months on this report, which will be announced next week. But there is a graph there from world data that the countries who gave hydroxychloroquine have much less deaths. The countries, including Ireland, that did not make hydroxychloroquine available are among the highest numbers of deaths. We need hydroxychloroquine. So truth and freedom, we need this health information. So this is the basis of what the changes should be to policy in Ireland and in the world. Because it would be like if someone had discovered an antibiotic and people were dying of pneumonia in Ireland back in the 20s and 30s. There was huge information that this antibiotic was safe and effective, but people were still dying of pneumonia. And people were well aware that this was happening. That are preventable deaths, and the people who are not allowing health information to be available should be held to account. The media, RTE, the journalists, and the politicians. So I am asking you to do something today, because everyone says, you know, what can you do? What you have to do today is to go home and talk to your families, but write a letter to your doctor, your GP, and say, in September, October, are you going to prescribe hydroxychloroquine to the elderly in the care homes and the people at risk? And you know, someone of you would be interested that we should have a register, not only of the doctors that are prescribing, but right to the Irish Medicines Organisation, the Minister for Health, every one of your TDs, and the Taoiseach to say, are you going to make an essential medicine, one of the safest medicines in the world, approved by the FDA over 50 years ago, available to the elderly and the sick? And if you're not, why not? If you're not, why not? Hydroxychloroquine should be made available. This is freedom and truth. So COVID-19 has the same death rate as a normal influenza. Even with all the overinflation of testing, still the death rate up to about June 2020, because people don't die of flu in the summer, is the exact same as an ordinary influenza virus. Coronaviruses only circulate between December and March. They are not March and April, they are not causing death now. And why this is important is, if coronavirus is not circulating, if no one is dying, if cases are just people who had any coronavirus or the common cold, the government should stop testing, the media need to stop reporting on cases, and every aspect of the lockdown has to be stopped. So no lockdown, no masks, no social distancing, no infringements of our rights, no forced vaccinations, and most of all, children should not be interfered with in the schools. It is psychologically damaging for children to be made afraid of viruses and invisible bacteria. It is psychologically damaging. The doctors know it, the teachers know it, the civil servants know it. And it is actually going to cause depression and anxiety to a generation. So what they're doing is making and more fear is entirely preventable. To the